Okay, so I would like to open this in a few ways, because I do know that there are residents in our audience that if you would like to speak to your own experiences, please feel open to that. If not, I think many people would understand if you want to sit back and listen to what people's questions are too. So have residents talk, but also if from the audience, questions about anything else that has been raised that you would like some clarification on. But then ultimately, if you saw the programs, I do have a couple of questions that I'm hoping that as a community together with residents, when we're here, we need to take advantage of the fact that we're all in the same room and not talking about what to do for the residents when they're not here, right? So I do like the idea of us trying to also ask these questions and work on them, not just tonight, but certainly you know that I work at University of Idaho, and you can always email me and I can at least initiate some of the conversations to get community conversation about short and long-term solutions. So in what ways can the larger community support Syringa residents who face home loss by June 5th of this year? Second of all, how do we build long-term strategies to avoid this happening to our community members in the future? We have, as was said, there are many mobile home parks that have the same type of divided ownership situation, and they're not looking much better than what has been happening out at Syringa, and by some testimonies, which I take very seriously, because again, I feel like I've learned so much from residents out at Syringa is that they're the ones that are observing this firsthand and in the other parks. So without further ado, if I have a mic here, and if anyone would like to speak, ask questions, pose suggestions, it's a free-for-all now.
I have a question for you, a few questions. Okay, Bob pointed out about the letter that he had got from Ford. We had been told multiple occasions that we could not sell our manufactured homes in the beginning of this. But now, according to Ford, we could have sold it, which if we all would have had that ability to sell 3 years ago, we would not be in this situation.
Does anyone want to speak to that? Maybe one of the commissioners, or so the question is the idea that that residents didn't know. I don't know if Legal Aid Clinic has any input on that either. I think, but a question about whether, why you didn't know 3 years ago.
We were told you cannot sell, and if you move out, somebody else moves in, automatic rent tax.
Yeah, that's true. If you left your home,
Yeah.
it was an automatic rent tax.
And if we were able to sell, you had like minimal amount of time to get it out, because if it was unoccupied, you were automatically rent taxed.
So we became jailed in our own home.
And remember, we're all taxpayers. I pay $333 a month. Part of that salary goes to the county commissioners, your schools, and your hospitals.
Well, I'd just like to say that I tried to clear up at some point the myth of the non-moving, once you sold your trailer, you couldn't sell your trailer. You could sell your trailer, there's no doubt about it. But there were a few things that kept the likelihood of that happening pretty low. One was there was going to need to be some kind of vetting process in order to, whoever you sold it to had to be, qualified to even move in. They were going to have to wait until all of the problems are out there were fixed finally. And this is just before they could move in. That was essentially what you're saying was true, that they would come in, put a tag on to keep someone from moving in from what was still an unresolved and still is to this day an unresolved issue. You could, however, sell your trailer and you were still able to move it as long as it was physically capable of surviving the trip. Where you ran into troubles there, in my case, was the first thing I did is I ran over to Albion because I knew there were several trailer spaces open there, and I had a buddy. I had me a guy. He's going to fix me up. And I ran into the city council, which was, if it's not 10 years or newer, you can forget it, you're not moving it into this town. So that was automatic no. So I could physically move my trailer. I had all the permits, you know, the applications for permits, all of the necessary hoops to jump through were in a line, but I had nowhere to take it because no one would accept it, because mine was an 85. It was in a reasonable shape when we bought it, but, you know, it's beside the point, you know, you have to find someone who will take it. Then the other problem you found was when you did find somewhere that might have even accepted it, you were moving it into another situation like Syringa. You know, essentially the same slumlord situation. And so, you know, what are you, you're jumping out of one fire and into another. And I know there's some parks in the area that are going under some new management, and there's, you know, it depends on who you talk to as to whether or not you can believe what's going on there. But yeah, so it was possible for you to sell your trailer. It is possible for you to sell a trailer and move it after, like, if it's older than 76. But again, you have to have a host of hoops to jump through, and you have to find someone willing to accept it. So yeah, there were plenty of obstacles here that would keep someone from wanting to buy a trailer out there and move it somewhere.
Well, I
Sure.
So are you suggesting that if you looked around, is there no place in any of the local other trailer parks that have a space?
There are several places, spaces actually available in different parks. The problem there is, and what I've been finding out, and this is not because I've been looking for a place of my own, is that several of the spaces that they have made available are for smaller trailers than most of the trailers that we have out there. Yeah, some of these trailers came in so many different flavors back in the day, you know, it was quite possible to have a whole section of a park that would only accept a trailer that was 45 feet long. Basically an oversized camp trailer.
Well, the
And-
other issue though too, and you can verify this.
Sure.
First of all, for a single wide, finding a lot that you can put it on.
Oh, yeah.
You got $6,500 laying around moving?
Oh, I know. And it can get expensive.
You can live for a week while they recite up your home.
Absolutely.
And are you gonna move it there and in a year, lose your house again?
Yeah, that's exactly the point. And, you know, and your double wide is another can of worms all its own.
Yeah.
And then a lot of these trailers, when they're moved in, are either moved in on fleet axles. That is, the company that moved the trailer had their own set of axles that they used temporarily, or the axles that were there from the factory of taking a leave of the residents. So here you are with a set of, you know, an axle. No axles on your trailer. Did you have a question back there? No? Oh, okay. So even a set of axles can be the difference between whether you can or can't move the trailer. It can be a tangled mess. They can be fixed. They can be moved. It can be, you know, but it's generally a magic checkbook that makes it happen. And that's where most of us don't. You know, that's the wall. It's the first wall. It's like, how much is it going to cost? Yeah.
So, I was just wondering, is there an estimate of the total cost involved in relocating all of the residents, and what is that amount?
Fairly wide range, but
It's
80.
5,000 per single,
5,000,
and
5,000.
about 7,500 per section.
I think that's kind of a starting place, isn't it, Bob?
Yeah.
Yeah, then it can go up from there.
What would be the cost of relocating all of the residents?
Well, that's,
The approximate
Oh.
cost.
well, but that's part of the issue, is a lot of the trailers, first of all, out there are too old, or they're unmovable. So all of these people that have invested their time, their money, their efforts, their lives, get to walk away and have absolutely nothing. You've got me, I owe $13,000 on a double wide. There is one lot in this town. It's $15,000 to $18,000 for me to move it, and that doesn't include the $5,000 I have wrapped up into my home in the last 3 years between the new roof, new flooring, new windows, because who would ever think they're gonna lose your home?
Yeah, we've lost,
People
Our
invest into their
homes,
homes to think
our
it's their
lives.
long-term.
and we really have to start all over from nothing all over again. I have to walk away from my home because, one, it can be moved, but it's been there for so long that during the move, the trailer would totally buckle and I would lose that and I would be out $5,000. And that's just to get a truck there to actually put and hook up to it. That's not including the costs and the permits that you have to get. And it differs from trailer end to side into the location. So to actually get a good rough estimate, Lisa, to answer your question, you're probably looking about $20,000 to $25,000 just as a head start. And that's if they have the time to turn around and to say, yes, we can. But then you get shaded again because, oh, you're one of those, you live in Syringa.
Boy, that's a big one.